out in the wheat field. If you can see any wheat behind me, you may be able to see more snow than the wheat. My name is Sandra Wick. I am the crop production agent with the Postrock Extension District. I thought I would just share with you just a little bit about maybe some of the condition of the wheat that's going on out there. As you realize, we've had kind of some different temperature changes here during the month of December. Out here right now, it's probably a balmy, maybe 35 if we're lucky. We have a little breeze, but the sun is shining. A couple weeks ago, we had weather in the 60s, or at least the high 50s. So we had some pretty abrupt temperature changes because it went down into the teens in the night. So you may just be wondering, what, if anything, is that doing to the wheat out here in the field? As you know, the wheat kind of had we're a little bit behind. We had a little difficulty getting in the field. We had very, very adequate moisture here, very abundant moisture. So that kind of slowed down the wheat drilling or the wheat planting process. So we got the wheat in a little bit late, just like we did, kind of repeat from last year. So a lot of the wheat did not get in till middle of October, even some in November. So we don't have much growth on this wheat out here. But let's take a look at some of the factors that could affect if you indeed have any winter damage or winter injury in your wheat. First thing that you think of is the air temperatures, okay? So it depends on the wheat and the growth stage of that big wheat. But if you don't pay attention to the air temperatures, there is an excellent K-State Research and Extension resource called the Mesonet Weather Data Library. And you can get that through our K-State Research and Extension website. The website is www.mesonet.ksu.edu. What that gives you not only the air temperatures, but it also gives you the 2-inch and 4-inch soil depth temperatures along with wind speed. So let's review just a little bit. A couple weeks ago, we had 60-degree weather. Maybe some of you were out putting up your Christmas decorations. And then all of a sudden, abrupt temperature changes. Went down in the teens in the evening, okay? We don't like it any more than the wheat is going to like it as far as abrupt temperature changes, okay? So go to the Mesonet library. You can plug in the dates that you would like to see those temperature fluctuations or tracking of the air temperatures. Also that 2 and 4-inch depth, which brings up another point. Soil temperatures can also have a factor whether there's any winter injury or winter damage to your wheat. So the different growth stages of wheat, and I'm going to show you, I pulled some wheat up here in this particular field. As you can see here, it's pretty small. You know, it's only about 5 inches tall, and this is pretty much the soil line. So not much roots down there, and just not much growth in here. And this wheat was probably planted middle of October, end of October, maybe even the 1st of November. So it really hasn't been adequate or real favorable conditions for that wheat to put on a lot of growth down there. So, but there are other factors that can determine whether you have any winter injury. Okay, a lot of the wheat has emerged, maybe not a lot of growth, but if your wheat has emerged, it can get down to around 15 degrees before there's really much potential for any injury. However, if your wheat has not emerged, but still sprouted underneath the surface of the soil, then it can get down to 5 to even 10 degrees Fahrenheit before there's any damage. And I didn't see when I went into the Mesonet library that any of our weather stations got down to below 10. The lowest one I saw was around 12 degrees Fahrenheit at that time. So there are several other factors that go into determining whether your wheat has had any winter damage. As we said, the soil temperatures. If you went into the Mesonet and you look at our weather stations, which remember is in Lincoln, Mitchell, and Osborne County, those soil temperatures are still up in the upper 30s. A couple weeks ago when we had 50 to 60 degree weather. Couple weeks then, last week, you know, when we have that abrupt temperature change, and the temperatures went down to around teens, 20s, the soil temperature dropped down to the lower 30s, but still, that's very good insulation and buffering, I guess you could say, for helping protect that wheat plant. Some other factors to look at, as you can see behind me, there's some residue cover. So if you have the more residue cover you have, the more insulation that would provide for that wheat plant. The snow cover. We have some pictures here for you of different snow cover around. Some had 2 to 3 inches of snow cover on the top of that wheat. Some had barely covered it. So the more snow cover would add insulation to that wheat, which would buffer it and help protect it from the cold temperatures. Planting depth is another one. If you want to, when it warms up out here, if you want to go dig your plants up, you can even find that wheat kernel and see how deep that plant was, or that kernel was planted. And then you can see if you've got some protection there, if it was below the soil, if that kernel, if that crown is right at that soil surface. Moisture content. Remember, it was indicated before that wetter the soil is, the firmer it's going to be, and it doesn't allow the cold to get in around that crown as much as if it was a drier, looser soil. Your root system also. The more that root system's developed, the more it's going to help provide and sustain that plant and that crown through this cold temperatures. So it's kind of a wait and see game. When it warms up, usually in January, we have some warm conditions where it may be 60 to 70 degrees, and you're interested, you may want to come out here in the field, dig up a wheat plant, and take a look at that crown a little bit more and make sure that that's healthy. So if you have any more questions, I'd be glad to visit with you about your wheat, or you can even bring in some samples to me. Come to our website or call any of our extension offices in the Postrock Extension District, which would be in Beloit, Lincoln, Mankato, Osborne, or Smith Center. So call me with any of your questions, and please have a very Merry Christmas.